when we talked about what is the vision and national service, I think it does not begin or should not begin at the high school level. I think it needs to go to the primary school level.
Leveraging and launching our creative industries in the country.
That's gotten mixed reviews.
Well, I think what got mixed reviews is not the concept, but the labeling.
What we do today will affect those coming after us.
A Bain Town murder ends the 2-week lull.
This caught me by surprise.
A man dies while reportedly driving to a beach party. The Financial Services Minister says taxes won't hurt small businesses.
To ensure that the services being provided were cost neutral.
But the opposition says otherwise. Plus, Clifford Park almost ready for the big independence celebration. I'm Nikia DeVoe, and this is NB12 Weekend. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Sunday for NB12 Weekend. A tragic story topping news tonight. Murder disrupts a community that has been very quiet in recent months. A 27-year-old man was gunned down in front of a house just around the corner from his own. Police tell us that Bain and Grantstown residents were shocked by the incident.
It's a long time since we have one of these incidents in Bain Town, so it is nothing that is picked up. This caught me by surprise also, that this actually happened in Bain Town.
Inspector Anthony Lull showed us where the incident unfolded yesterday evening around 6:20. It was here outside of this home on Augusta Street that 27-year-old Terrell Williams was gunned down. Head of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Lull, said the victim was sitting in this yard with a group of men moments before he was killed.
And they observe a vehicle pull up, a male exited this vehicle, and the victim got up and they attempted to get into his vehicle to drive off, when the assailant produced a handgun and discharged several shots in his direction, hitting him to the side of the body.
Williams was rushed to Princess Margaret Hospital's accident and emergency room, where he died minutes later. The alleged gunman didn't get far. Superintendent Lull said he was caught about an hour later.
Around 7:30 p.m. on Saturday evening, officers took into custody a male resident of Dorset Alley for questioning reference to this latest homicide.
Bain and Grantstown urban renewal officers wasted no time responding to the tragic incident. This afternoon, police officers met with the grieving family at its South Street home to offer condolences on behalf of the Commissioner of Police and also to give family members words of encouragement.
It wasn't a little somber move, more as expected. There was still little, life in the family, but they had no concerns as such, but they are accepting what happened, and they are ready to move on.
We caught up with Inspector Anthony Lull and his team shortly after they visited the family. They were canvassing the neighborhood and also met with Williams' neighbors and other residents in the surrounding area.
Just trying to reassure them that the officers at the Urban Renewal program is still committed to partnering with them to reduce crime and the fear of crime within this area.
Williams' murder marks the 58th so far this year. Superintendent Lull says that number is still down compared to the same time last year. Police are also investigating an apparent traffic fatality. A man was driving south on Blue Hill Road around 2:45 this afternoon when he crashed into a lamppost. When witnesses rushed to assist the driver of the purple Ford Explorer, they discovered that the man was dead inside. Now, eyewitnesses say it appeared that the man had a seizure before he smashed into the pole, but police have not confirmed that information. Someone who says he knew the deceased told us that he was on his way to a beach party. Police had not released details up to airtime. In other news, recent tax increases that went into effect on the 1st of the month have stirred things up in the small business community, with those affected lamenting that they were given no warnings on the changes. But as the Minister of Financial Services defends the government's position that it can no longer afford to subsidize businesses, the opposition is berating the move, saying that consultation should have taken place. Paige McCartney reports.
As far as Pindar is concerned, those new taxes won't adversely impact small businesses. In fact, Pindar said in terms of customs concessions, the way things have been operating regarding imported items is unsustainable. Pindar believes the government's new tax regime is cost neutral, pointing to reforms such as the customs processing fee.
Many years, especially when you speak about customs and matters entering the border, the government has essentially been subsidizing a lot of business. In other words, the services that are being provided by the government at the border are not recouped through fees or revenues. And therefore, it was a tremendous expense to the Bahamian people and tremendous burden on the government. So one thing we tried to do in reforming how the fee structure in the country operated was to ensure that it was modeled to be a cost recovery initiative, to ensure that the services being provided were cost neutral, both to the private sector and to the government.
Reports last week indicated that general aviation pilots were surprised to learn of a $50 declaration processing fee for private aircraft entering the Bahamas, even if it was just to refuel. Many international private pilots claimed they would no longer consider the Bahamas as a refueling station and expressed disappointment by the lack of outreach to the general aviation community about the fee hike. But Pindar said it was only fair that the government profit from the industry that has long been given a free ride.
If an aircraft comes in and has to be cleared by customs and there's no fee associated with that, that's a free service being provided to generally a demographic who $50 wouldn't really impact them. So that's a cost recovery item as well. And that's really the philosophy in which we try to approach some of these reforms on the fee structures, is to be more cost recovery and more revenue neutral rather than revenue negative.
But F&M Party Chairman Darren Cash believes something different. He said these new tax increases are already negatively impacting small businesses. He criticized the government for moving too much and too fast with the taxes at a time when the Bahamas should be continuing economic recovery.
What we've seen in the last several days and perhaps weeks does not square with what the Minister of State for Finance and the Prime Minister have been thumping their chest and bragging about, this idea that all of the measures that they brought to Parliament were done so after consultation with members of the business community or the persons impacted. You would know from reports on your own stations and in the papers that people were complaining about lack of knowledge of these taxes, and so their thumping of the chest does not square with the reality from the people who are impacted, and it certainly seems as though people aren't yet able to accommodate the additional taxes.
In fact, Cash believes that these new taxes have the potential to create serious implications for the Bahamian economy.
The reality is that people are not yet able to sustain additional taxes. They're not able to absorb them or pass them on to the consumers. Then yes, there is the possibility of reduced confidence as far as the investors are concerned, and consumer confidence if they have to increase their prices and people feel disinclined to spend money.
Other tax adjustments include increases to the international banking licensing fees. Pindar said the government ensured there was full consultation with that sector, and despite the increase, the fees are still competitive with the rest of the region. For MB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
Well, the Bimini Superfast ferry that is expected to bring 400,000 passengers to Bimini a year will remain docked at a Miami port at least until later this week due to the ongoing safety deficiencies. A team of Coast Guard inspectors reviewed the boat on Wednesday and then again on Friday, according to Chief Inspector Janet Espino-Young. However, there are still major infractions that need to be corrected before the vessel is cleared for commercial sailing. Espino-Young said they may be back to inspect the boat tomorrow or Tuesday. Now, Prime Minister Perry Christie participated in a ceremony to christen the ferry at a Miami port last Friday. The ship was supposed to make its maiden voyage to Bimini to coincide with the grand opening of the resort's World Bimini Casino that same day. Last week, it was revealed that the ship did not sail because it was not cleared by the U.S. Coast Guard to ferry passengers out of the U.S. The vessel failed an abandoned ship drill, and the crew did not understand ship evacuation procedure. Now, we're told that has since been corrected, but several other safety issues are still present, according to the chief inspector. Espino Young said there are technicians on board working on crossing safety checks off of the list one by one. Now, once the issues are addressed, a regular twice-a-day service between Miami and Bimini will be launched.